Hic est milk duds. He says, Salvete et welcome to Adjectives for Stage 3. Our objective is going to be to use Latin adjectives in sentences in the nominative, accusative, and ablative cases. So let's get started. An overview of adjectives. Adjectives describe nouns. Only nouns. Not verbs, not articles, nouns. Remember, nouns are people, places, things, or ideas. In the following sentences, we've got some adjectives. Example 1. The happy girl walks. Happy is an adjective. It describes girl, telling us more information about her. The boy is tired and angry. Tired and angry both describe boy. Remember this, you can have more than one adjective. Three, an anxious woman carries the water. Anxious is describing the noun woman. In Latin, adjectives change endings based upon the noun they describe. This shouldn't surprise you, since we've seen that nouns and verbs change ending. Right? Especially our nouns. They change to show us if they are subjects, direct objects, or part of a prepositional phrase. An adjective describing a noun in any of these places in a sentence must do the same thing. Also, if you know Spanish, think about feminine words and how any adjective describing a feminine noun must also be feminine. The short of it, adjectives must do what the noun does. So, back to our examples. 1. The happy girl walks. Happy is describing girl. So, happy has to do whatever girl is doing. Girl is feminine. Girl is also the subject. So, both happy and girl, when we look at the Latin, have a nominative feminine ending, the A. There's no way happy would have a US, because that would be second masculine. And unless you want your girl to be very sad because she's just grown a beard and turned into Gandalf the Wizard, then you're going to make sure she has a feminine ending. The boy is tired and angry. Tired and angry, remember, both describe the boy. So they both, in the Latin, need to be masculine. They also need to be nominative because the boy is the subject. That's why we don't have fessa, because that would make him a girly boy. Or erotum, because that would make the boy neuter. So there are 3 main things that I'm going to talk about. The first is case. In Latin, adjectives must match their noun in case. If the noun is nominative, then the adjective is. If the noun is accusative, the adjective is. If it's ablative, the adjective is. This does not mean that they will have the exact same ending, however. That is, the noun and adjective. Because they could be from different families. Remember, we do have these families called declensions. We'll look at an example of different families in a moment. Let's look at example 1. The boy sees the happy girl. Happy is still describing girl. Notice now, though, that the girl is the direct object of the sentence, which means she is accusative in the sentence. Since girl is accusative, happy must do the same thing, must, and it would also be accusative. So now when we look at the Latin, we see puer for boy, puellam accusative, laetam accusative, videat for sees. The boy sees the happy girl. Both the adjective and noun are accusative, because the noun was. The father, in example 2, is tired and angry. Tired and angry, both are describing the father. The father is the subject of the sentence, so he's nominative. That means that since tired and angry describe him, they must also be nominative. Let's look at the Latin. Pater est fessus et erotus. Fessus and erotus are both nominative, just like pater. So both the adjective and the noun are nominative. Now they are different declensions and have different endings. That's okay. Father is third. Fessus and erotus are using second masculine. And that's okay. Right now, we don't have third adjectives. So we're going to see that we can only use first or second endings with our adjectives. So after case, adjectives must match their noun in gender. We looked at this earlier. If the noun is masculine, then the adjective must be masculine. If the noun is feminine, the adjective must be feminine. If the noun were bedroom, cubiculum, and it's neuter, then the adjective must also be neuter. This does not mean, once more, that they will have the same endings, because they could be from different families. Let's look at our examples. The boy sees the happy girl. Happy is still describing girl. We determined that girl was accusative because she's the direct object, so happy must also be accusative. Girl is a first declension word, and we know that those are pretty much feminine. Well, of course girl's feminine. Happy, then, also needs to be feminine to match the girl. So let's look at our endings and make sure they are. Puer, puellam. Okay, that's first declension feminine. Think if I go in the first chart to that accusative ending, it's an AM. Laetam is also using that AM because it's accusative and it's feminine. And then videat. So both the adjective and the noun are feminine. The father is tired and angry. Remember, we said tired and angry described the father. We said that the father was nominative, so the adjectives had to be too. Also, the father is masculine, and he's third declension. The adjectives are not third. We know that because right now there are no third adjectives right now. But they can be masculine if we can use second declension. And we can. So that's what we did. So both adjectives and nouns are masculine and nominative. They just look different because they're different families. Last, adjectives must match their noun in number. That means that if the noun is singular, then the adjective is, or if the noun is plural, then the adjective is. However, right now, we don't have plural. Anything. So you don't have to really worry about this yet. It's just important to know. Same thing with the same examples. The boy sees the happy girl. Happy's describing girl. We know they're both accusative. We know they're both feminine. And they are both singular, because that's what we know. Father, tired and angry, are describing the father. These are both nominative, because the father is. They're both masculine, because the father is. But they're also both singular, because the father is. In Latin, there are two types, or two families, of adjectives. There are adjectives that are first and second declension, and adjectives that are third declension. First and second declension adjectives are called 2-1-2 adjectives because they use the noun endings from second masculine, first feminine, and second neuter charts. So those charts that you guys are already supposed to know, those are just the same exact charts that these guys are using. We're not adding anything new. Okay, so second masculine, first feminine, and then second neuter. It's nice that the adjectives can use the same charts. So an example of this type of adjective, a 2-1-2 adjective, or a first-second adjective, is like what we already have. Lightus, lighta, lightum. That's what the dictionary entry looks like. Notice this one, the first word, tells us it can use second masculine because of that US. The second word tells us that it's using first feminine because of that A. And the last word tells us that it's using second neuter because of that UM. So the way you choose the chart is going to be based on the gender of the noun that it describes. And we'll see this in a couple of examples. Third declension adjectives exist, and they use the third declension noun chart. We just don't have any yet, but this is what they look like in the dictionary. More on that later. So, plura exempla, more examples. Quintus est lightus. Notice that Quintus is the subject and lightus describes him. So lightus has to do whatever Quintus wants. Quintus is the subject, so he's nominative. He's a boy, so he's masculine. And there's only one of him, so it's singular. Quintus's name is second declension. So he has a US ending. We just saw that lightus in the dictionary is lightus, lighta, lightum. So it can use second masculine, first feminine, or second neuter. Since Quintus is masculine, it's going to use this chart. Since Quintus is nominative, it wants the nominative ending in that chart. The nominative ending in that chart is a US. So, lightus. So, the noun and the adjective have the same ending because they're able to use the same declension. So, if the noun and adjective can use the same declension chart, then they do. You have to look at the dictionary entry to figure this out. Another example, Metella grumionem lightum portat. Notice that lightum happy is describing Grumio in this sentence. I know it has to describe Grumio because of the endings. So Grumio is a guy, so he's masculine. He's accusative, and there's only one of him. He's also third declension. That's where that EM is coming from. Lightus, lightum, I know can use second masculine, first feminine, or second neuter. This UM ending is either second neuter or masculine but accusative. Since Grumio is accusative, I'm betting it is too. So it's masculine, it's accusative, and it's singular. Just like Grumio. But it can't use third because it's just not. So it's second. So they do not have the same ending because Grumio is third. But lightus, lightum only uses second or first endings. Let's work one or two more. So I'm going to make this one really long and break it apart. In the happy road, the great mother greets the angry dog. Okay, so when you're taking your practice quiz, break it apart like I break this one apart for you. In the happy road, I'm going to ask myself, what is that grammatically? Well, it's a prepositional phrase. We know in Latin, those use ablative. So road needs to be ablative. That means that happy also has to be ablative. Road is the word weai, which is first and feminine. So that means that happy and road are both going to be feminine. We only know singular, so that's what we have. So if I think, what is the ablative ending in that first declension chart? It's an A with a line over it. So I'm going to say in we are. Now I need to look at the word happy. Can happy use first declension? Lightus, lighta, lightum. Yeah, it can, because it's one of the first second adjectives. Remember, we don't have any third right now. So it's going to have the same ending as the road. So both ablative, both singular. Now let's look at the great mother greets. So looking at the great mother greets, the great mother is the one doing the greeting. So she's nominative. She's the subject, which means that great also needs to be nominative. We know that for nouns, the nominative is the first word. Mother is feminine and singular. That means that for our adjective, we also want it to be nominative, feminine, and singular. So let's put the mother down first. The first word is mater. The word great in the dictionary is magnus, magna, magnum. Now this is a little trickier. This word can only use second masculine, first feminine, or second neuter. So we have to choose. Since the mother is feminine, we're going to choose magna. Then we have to decide, is this A the right ending? Well, it should be the nominative ending of the first chart, and it is. So we can leave it alone. The word greets needs to end in a T because the mother is a she. So, salutat. Last, we're going to look at the angry dog. The angry dog is being greeted, so he receives the action, which makes him a direct object or accusative. So both angry and dog must be accusative. He's singular because we don't know anything else. Last, we're going to make dog masculine, just to make our lives easier. Now dog, what chart is he in? Well, he's third. So we need the accusative ending in this chart, which is an EM. So when I write it down, he becomes conim. Now we got to look at the word angry. Angry is erotus, erota, erotum. It is not third. It can only use second or first declension endings. So I decided dog was masculine, so I'm going to go with the second declension chart. But I also need it to be accusative. So what is the second declension accusative ending? It's a UM. Notice how both words are accusative, both are masculine, and both are singular. The big thing for you guys to remember here is the adjectives and the nouns must be the same case, they must be the same number, and they must have the same gender. Right now, no third adjectives. So all adjectives like lightus, lighta, lightum are going to use second masculine, first feminine, and second neuter. Last, you need to make sure to pay close attention to what the noun is doing. Because like with conim, with an em, erotum in our last example, they may not have the same ending, the adjective and the noun. They still have the same case and the same number and the same gender, but they can be different declensions. Good luck on your practice quiz.